on June 15th, 2026, I visited Lake Compounce in Bristol, Connecticut. It's a small amusement park that's off the beaten path. It's not home to very many roller coasters, but it is home to one major one that I've been wanting to ride for quite some time, and that's Boulder Dash. So for that reason alone, I decided to travel 4 hours, almost 5 with traffic, up north to the state of Connecticut to give this park a try. I want to start off by saying this. I've been to Knoebels in Pennsylvania, and this park is pretty similar to that in the sense of the atmosphere that the park gives off. We started our day by pulling up to Lake Compounce, and the first thing you're greeted with is this massive hill, almost a mountain. But I mean, come on, if you live up north, this ain't a mountain. This is like a little pile of sand. Still, for someone who lives in an area that doesn't have any elevation changes at all, this thing looks like a damn mountain. For the rest of this video, I'm going to call this the Lake Compounce Mountain, even though it's probably not called that. So immediately pulling up to the park, you are greeted with this Lake Compounce Mountain backdrop that complements everything in front of it. You see this thing towering over the entire park, and in the foreground you have rides like Downtime, which is their S&S drop tower, Wildcat, their Philadelphia Toboggan Company wooden coaster, and a couple other rides, especially Phobia, their premier ride, Skyrocket 2. The park looks really nice when you're coming up to it. First impressions, this park is pretty good. It doesn't have the most impressive skyline, but what it does have is beautiful. You have to do a little bit of walking from the parking lot to the front entrance, but it's not too bad. You just walk under a tunnel and then boom, you're right at the front entrance. Front entrance isn't that big, so once you get past the main gate to scan your ticket, you're already in and you're surrounded by quite a few rides already. And since this is my first visit to the park, I followed the order of all the rides that were laid out in front of me. I didn't have a strategy going in. I just decided I'm just gonna have fun and do things in the order that they come. If you're here for roller coasters specifically, the first roller coaster you're going to encounter is Zoomerang, and it is directly right of the entrance. Once you get into the entrance, just take a right and go straight, and eventually you'll come face to face with Zoomerang, their Vekoma boomerang. I don't have much to say about this ride because it's not anything special, it's just a Vekoma boomerang, but I will say it is one of the better ones I've been on. Despite having the old trains, it does run pretty smooth. There isn't very much headbanging. The transitions are fine, and overall it's pretty re-rideable. I ended up riding this twice, and whenever a park has a Vekoma boomerang, this doesn't normally happen. If a park has a boomerang, I normally skip it altogether, or if I really want the credit, I'll ride it once, but the fact I rode Zoomerang twice says a lot about the quality of the ride. It's not bad, it's pretty good. Zoomerang was my 371st credit, and I would put it at a comfortable number 227 in my personal list. After riding Zoomerang, I made my way to the second coaster in the order that, you go in the park. The second coaster you'll encounter is Phobia, which is their premier ride, Skyrocket 2. And finally, after riding all 5 of them in the United States, I can say with confidence that Phobia is my favorite premier ride, Skyrocket 2. It's super smooth, it's super comfortable, and it seems to be a lot more forceful than the other ones I've been on. All of that combined with the fact that it runs with only 2 cars instead of 3, so the forces are a little bit more accentuated, and it doesn't have the dreadful comfort collars. So this is a pretty W ride for Lake Compounce all around. Crowds don't seem to be too much of an issue at this park, so this ride is perfectly fine as it is. Phobia Fear was my 372nd credit, and that sits at a comfortable 143 in my personal rankings. Not a bad ride. After my rides on Zoomerang and Phobia Fear coaster, the next coaster in the lineup for me was Wildcat. But in between those two, I decided to hit up their Scream and Swing because these are one of my favorite flat rides out there. They provide really good forces, and even though this one is on the smaller side, it's still fun. I recommend riding these flat rides every time you find one at a park. They're really fun and definitely worth it. Upon riding their Scream and Swing, I got my first glimpse at Boulder Dash. I haven't seen this thing. I've been at the park for about an hour at this point, and I have not seen any sign of Boulder Dash. And naturally, I decided to save that for last, even though it was technically next in the lineup. So after riding their Scream and Swing, instead of hitting Boulder Dash, I rode Wildcat, and I enjoyed that thoroughly well. I've heard a lot of people say that this ride's rough, it's unbearable, it's terrible, it's just the worst thing ever, but it did get retracked, and it looked like pretty much the whole thing was retracked. The ride was really smooth. It had some good airtime on some of the hills. Barely noticeable laterals. They were there, but they weren't super noticeable. It's basically a family coaster. It's a ride that everyone can enjoy, so it's not going to be super forceful, and the fact that it is pretty much butter smooth now makes this a ride for pretty much all ages. Wildcat was my 373rd credit, and after thoroughly enjoying it, I decided to put it at number 170 in my personal rankings. Now we get on to the big cheese. I can't ignore this ride any longer, and that is Boulder Dash. This is the ride I came here for, so I'm definitely gonna ride it. Now I will say Boulder Dash had a long line, but that's because the ride was running one train ops, and there were 3 different lines that were funneling into the station. The standby line, the speedy pass, and the exit pass for ADA. The capacity is immediately cut in half because of the one train ops, and then the capacity is cut into thirds again because of the 3 separate lines. So that's not really the operator's fault. They don't make those rules. That's just the way it is. I took whatever seat I could get, and I was assigned the middle row for my first ride on Boulder Dash, and oh man, Boulder Dash is everything everyone says it was. This ride uses the terrain so well. This ride seems to be at ground level most of the time, but in reality, if you were to take the terrain out from underneath it, this thing would be all over the place. It's just very good at hucking the terrain. This is probably one of the most unchained rides I've ever been on. It's just so good. But there are some pros and cons with this ride. First off, I want to give a pro which is also a con, and that's the Titan track. How could it possibly be a pro and a con at the same time? Well, let's start with the pro. The way this train glides over the Titan track is just I don't even know how to describe it. The friction, a lot lower on the Titan track. The friction on the wood, a lot higher than the Titan track. What that means is the first half is incredibly fast. You are gliding. You are zooming past all of the trees. You aren't losing too much speed. You carry a lot of momentum. You have so much extra speed carried over from that first half that the second half feels downright unhinged. I genuinely feel like the train is running through the second half a lot faster than it should be. But let me talk about where the con for this comes in. And I'm one of the people who thinks wooden coasters should have a little bit of bite to them. Like when I was sitting in the middle and front row for Boulder Dash, the second half had a great amount of bite. Not too rough, but rough enough to really add to the intensity. It's that perfect kind of roughness that we call bite. The first half does not have any bite at all. It just has speed. It is so astronomically smooth that you don't really feel anything at all. You just feel like you're floating through the trees at very high speeds. I would have liked for Gravity Group or GCI to come in and just completely retract the ride with wood. That way you still have that classic wooden coaster experience paired with Boulder Dash's crazy ass layout going through the trees, but you don't sacrifice the bite. If you haven't ridden Boulder Dash yet, do not expect the first half to be insanely crazy. It's not. It's just really smooth and really fast. I do want to say this. Boulder Dash draws a very striking comparison to Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City in the sense that where you sit can make or break the ride. If you sit in the front or somewhere near the middle, like I did for my first 2 rides, you're going to have a legendary experience. This is absolutely a top 20 experience. And after riding it in the front and middle row, I put it at number 19 out of 374 credits I have. Genuinely, I don't think I've had this much fun on a coaster in a long time. It was just so crazy and ridiculous that I was just confused and laughing my ass off the whole time. But there's a big fat but in there. I didn't try the back row yet, and I finally did try the back row. That was my last ride of the day because the back row is absolutely brutal, and I didn't know this before going on. Some of those potholes were absolutely brutal. My back still kind of hurts from riding the back row on Boulder Dash. It might be the roughest coaster experience I've ever had. If you're looking to have a good opinion on Boulder Dash, I recommend sitting in the front or middle rows and avoid the back row. But if you want to feel this ride and everything it has to offer in pretty much every seat, I guess try back row if you really want, but just prepare yourself for the absolutely brutal ride that's gonna happen. Even after riding the back row, I still decided to keep this ride at number 19 out of 374 of my credits just because no one's forcing you to sit in the back row. I did want to mention in between my second and third ride, the ride broke down for an obscene amount of time. time because apparently Boulder Dash is incredibly unreliable, which I also had no idea. I've been told I was even lucky to ride it because there are days where it's just closed all day for downtime. Speaking of downtime, that is the ride I rode in between my second and third ride of Boulder Dash. Downtime is their S&S drop tower, and well, it's fine. It's not the best drop tower in the world. S&S drop towers aren't normally that forceful because of the air systems or something, the pneumatics and the electrical doohickeys. Whatever, the science is there, and S&S drop towers aren't that intense, but it was still a good ride. You don't ride downtime for the intensity, you ride downtime to get a view of that gorgeous lake, the beautiful setting that this park sits in. I rode a lot more than that too. I also rode the Compounce Railway, which is a little railway that takes you around the lake. Get some more views of that. Also takes you to a second station if you wanted to ride Thunder Rapids or whatever, the Rapids ride. That wasn't open, and I wouldn't have rode it if it were open. So I just stayed on the train and took a little chill pill. The train is nice. Honestly, if you're at Lake Compounce, give the Lake Compounce train a try. It's good. It's a nice little chill ride. You get to see the lake. You get to leave the park if it's busy. It's just really chill. Overall, Lake Compounce's ride collection isn't the best, obviously. It is heavily carried by Boulder Dash, and we all know this, but Lake Compounce has a lot of really good supplementing rides, like Wildcat, Phobia, and they have some good flat rides like Thunder and Lightning and Downtime. Some could argue that this is a half-day park, and well, yeah, that's true if you only care about the coasters. If you also care about scenery, exploring some of the areas of the park, and maybe even doing some of the flat rides, and really just taking your time and enjoying the park for what it is, you can easily stretch this park into an all-day thing. Don't expect Lake Compounce to be the best park you've ever been to. Think of it as a nice escape. It's like a retreat. It's unlike any other conventional park out there in the sense where, you know, it's like super corporate and there's ads everywhere and it just looks like, you know, a company definitely owns this place. On top of having a pretty good lineup of rides, the staff is also super nice. They're interesting to talk to. I talked to some of the staff about different roller coasters and trips and things like that while I was in the station waiting for them to fix Boulder Dash. There was literally like no sense of urgency at this park. We did not feel rushed at all. We were taking our time doing what we wanted to do, even doing things that I would not normally do when I go to a park, such as riding the train. It was definitely an unconventional amusement park day for me. This is nothing like what I normally experience, and that's a good thing. It's a breath of fresh air. Do not sleep on Lake Compounce. It's a good park. You'll enjoy it if your expectations aren't too high. The park has amazing scenery, situated by a beautiful lake. Pretty much in the wilderness, you're surrounded by a lot of trees on all sides of the park, and then you have that awesome mountainscape going on in the background, which I'm finding out used to be home to a sky ride, chairlift, ski lift thing that took you up and down the hill. They got rid of that some time ago. It would have been cool to ride that. I would have ridden it if they still had it, but oh well. My final thoughts on Lake Compounce: the staff are friendly, they're good. The operations, they're fine. They're not the best in the business, but they're sufficient enough. The ride lineup is also very serviceable, with their star attraction being Boulder Dash, and featuring some pretty good supplementary rides as well that you'll enjoy if you just give them the time of day. And the park appearance is really good. This is one of the better looking parks I've been to. I like going out there. I like the nature. This is definitely a park that, you know, outdoorsy people would like, surrounded by all this nature, trees, beautiful lake, rockwork, scenery, mountains. It's got everything that the outdoorsy person likes. For this park's rating, I am going to give this park a generous 8 out of 10. I know a lot of coaster enthusiasts do not have Lake Compounce on their must-visit bucket list just because of the fact it only has 4 coasters and it's kind of out of the way. I understand that, but I recommend taking the detour anyway. This is a park where you just take a day and chill. No urgency, no rushing, just spend the whole day there and chill. Do what you want to do, take in the scenery, do some activities around the area. It's one of those parks. It's not a coaster enthusiast park where it's just filled with 25 coasters that you have to speed run. This is a park where you can take your time, relax, and enjoy. I might be posting more in-depth reviews on some of the other rides that they have because I just wanted to quickly brush over them. But this was just a quick summary of my visit at Lake Compounce, followed by a little review. I hope you found it somewhat interesting, and I'll be doing some more stuff like this in the future for other parks that I visited yet, and I will see you guys next time.